Wait! Rex!
I know! You love me! You don't need to say it!
Jump in an Aston, jump in a roll! Jump around! Jump around! Jump around! Jump up, jump up!
We are at Soho Square Recording Studios, and I am recording my part of the Playmobil movie, which is I play a character called Rex Dasher, who is sort of, as you can see from behind me, is sort of the Playmobil's world's version of James Bond. And yeah, so that's what we've been recording today. Well, I've wanted to do a voice in something for a long time, and I've always been fascinated by that process. And frankly, I'm much more likely to spend my time watching an animated film or TV show than I am to watching actors. So I was very excited to be a part of it. And then I spoke to Lino, the director, and he pitched me on his sort of entire vision for the film. And he was just like, his enthusiasm and joy about the project was really infectious. And the chance to play like Playmobil James Bond felt... Because if you're an English actor, and I know I'm fully aware of how ridiculous this sounds coming from me, but if you... People have asked me for years like about playing actual James Bond. Now, you've met me and been in a room with me. That's not me. Like, I'm not castable as that, in my opinion. But so there was something about like playing Playmobil James Bond that really appealed to me, and felt like I can answer that question now and be like, yeah, well, I did it. I just did it in Playmobil form. And yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed the script, and I found it really funny and sweet. And also, frankly, like I do, most of my movies that I do are really weird and not suitable for kids at all, so it's nice to be sort of involved in something that I'll be able to say to my godkids and stuff like, oh, you'll be able to go and see this. You'll actually like, my godkids are not massive Swiss Army Man fans, so this is a Playmobil movie is something they can get into, I think. Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, there's Rex Dasher is a completely he's a very send-upable character. I mean, he exists to be a kind of parody of James Bond, but it's sort of all the silliest bits of Bond, and the less the I would say less the modern kind of Daniel Craig Bond. We're parodying sort of more like a Roger Moore, incredibly like overly suave and overly dapper sort of gentleman. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Lino's got a really... First of all, it's part live action and part animation. It's a musical. Like, it all feels very, very kind of ambitious. And it doesn't just feel like, somebody has the intellectual property to a game or a toy, and so they're just like churning something out because they know it's got an inbuilt market. Like, Lino is putting a huge amount of care and attention into it and coming up with something that is really... It pays homage to the world of, imagination and what toys do, which is, fire your imagination and make you connect with other people. Like, that's what's great about being a kid. That's what's great about playing. That's what's great about toys. And so hopefully, the film as a whole will be imbued with that same kind of like joy of discovery, and the sort of family relationship between Marla and her brother is very, very sweet. And I think it's a film that, like all good kids films, like it's funny and it's silly and it's entertaining, but it's ultimately got like a really lovely message, and hopefully one that kids will enjoy and take something from. And I would also say that, like all the great kids films, this one starts with utter tragedy on about page 6 of the script, which I won't say too much about, but it's it follows a rich tradition of children's movies that start with something incredibly dark happening. Yeah, well, that's kind of, I think, often that's probably, I don't know, I imagine that's probably a challenge Lino has with actors a lot who are not used to doing animation. Like, I'm not particularly used to doing animation. I'm used to being on film and trying to give something like as real and honest and make it really like, very natural, but actually that's like not your job when you're being a voice. You kind of have to be big enough to be the voice of a cartoon character. If Simpsons episodes consisted of people talking like they were in Mike Leigh films, it would be a very different show. And in terms of Lino's direction, I was just saying somebody who reminds me very much of Chris Columbus, who directed the first two Potters, just in his energy and enthusiasm, and also he knows clearly exactly what he wants. Like the moment I would say a line with just like a slightly different intonation, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's it, got it," and we'd have it and move on. I think he's great. He's incredibly energetic and enthusiastic and joyful, and you want that in somebody that's making this movie. Like if the Playmobil movie was made by somebody who was super cynical and grumpy and miserable, I think it'd be a really terrible film. I love all of Rex's really overconfident lines. The moment when he charges into a hallway and in the midst of trying to escape and being pursued has time to observe that the lighting in here really brings out his eyes is one I love. I love his final moment when he's sort of final moment of the sort of spy sequence when he goes out, when he's about to go out of the doors of the van and he turns around to Marla and says, she's about to say something to him and he fills in the gap and says, "No, you don't have to say you love me. You've been saying it with your eyes," and it's just so conceited and completely wrong and misguided. And that's not what she was about to say at all. She was just about to tell him that he left his glasses. But that's like, I feel like that moment encapsulates why I enjoy playing Rex. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I had a Playmobil island, I think, with like a palm tree on it, and also I think I had a Playmobil pirate ship. That was definitely, yeah, that was the ones I had. But yeah, no, it was a big. That's why it was such a, like, I don't know. It's a strange, cool thing to suddenly be asked to be in the Playmobil movie. There is some part of you that, like, the 7-8-year-old child still residing inside you just goes, "Yeah, that's the coolest thing in the world. Do that right now." So yeah, no, it's definitely a childhood memory of mine. Thank you, Playmobil, for all those happy hours, and thank you for my parents because you took me off their hands for a few hours. They're going to be no, they'll be very excited. I do actually, I am really excited for my godkids to see this because I genuinely do nothing that they can see, so it's nice for them to be able to. And kids generally, like, kids know me from Harry Potter, so there's not, if you're a young kid and you were like, "Oh, I want to watch more of his stuff," there's not a lot out there that you can really watch. So this is another good kids film. It's totally new. It's amazing to me how, like, I think actually it requires a lot more focus out of a director, and I can see how, in my head, I can see how directors would move really well from animation to live action, just because you don't. I mean, you have to essentially have to reverse engineer the film. You have to edit it first, and then work backwards to getting the lines recorded. And I don't know, that's something I've never seen before. And there were parts we were doing today that are more fully animated, so I could see them, and I was matching the lips moving of the character. And there were parts where I could just sort of do my own thing because they haven't got them fully done yet. But yeah, it was really interesting, and it also, like, I know that I'm sure the final version will be very, very colourful and beautiful, but a lot of what we were watching today was in black and white and it was just beautiful. It was like this incredibly sort of European animated movie that we're making. But yeah, it was very, very cool, and just I'm in awe of animators and how they're going to extrapolate and probably make a much funnier performance than what I was doing in the room just based on my line readings. So yeah, thank you to all the people that will be animating that. It looks amazing. I mean, I love all the, like, the pointing, just them pointing with their silly circular hands is so funny to me.